We're nearly taught that we should fit in, not kind of stand out or not be different.
80% of those health issues in the world today are down to lifestyle choices.
6 out of every 10 adults are overweight or obese in the European region.
In 30s, your life starts going downhill, you know?
Basically, in life, you need to really work hard.
What does actually feeling good feel like?
If you've grown up in a very stressful environment, then that is your normal.
I thought that was just how I was meant to feel because everything else in my life was great. You don't actually know what that's like until you can come out the other side of it.
So if we just do the same thing everybody else is doing, where are we all going to end up? Hey there, welcome to the Future Fitness Lifestyle. If you're passionate about staying fit, healthy, and mentally sharp, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Matt Cooney, and each week we dive into the latest trends, expert insights, and actionable tips to help you take your fitness, nutrition, and mental well-being to the next level. Ready to level up your health and fitness? Let's jump in and get started. Here we go. Sharon's face. I actually just had to laugh there. I was just looking at Sharon. Guys, hello and welcome to the first episode of the MC Future Fitness Lifestyle podcast. We are very excited to be here, although there is some technical difficulties with the internet, but that would have to happen, wouldn't it? Today, I think to start, I want to just ask how everybody's feeling first. We have the full team here today. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you can't see, but if you're on YouTube, you'll see there's 5 of us here in the studio today at our own homes. So firstly, we'll introduce ourselves, but how's everybody feeling? What's one word to describe how we're feeling right now?
Excited.
Joyful.
Nervous. Nervous/excited.
They're probably the 2 words I'd use, nervous and excited. And it's always weird because I record podcasts like every week for clients and I have no nerves, but anytime we're doing something different, just the only thing different is that it's going to the public, I get that feeling of nerves. But so let's introduce ourselves, but first let's introduce the podcast and how this actually came about. I think, Roisin, you're actually responsible for us all being here today. So how did this happen?
Full credit for that when this is a huge success. Because after any of our events or photo shoots or anything, when you get like a group of our clients and the like-minded individuals together, stations they're just so expansive. I think we've had multiple conversations like in the pub in Ireland and she'll be like, that could have been a podcast episode. And I think this has been maybe a year or so in the making or thinking about it anyway.
Yeah. So it basically started 5 Irish people drinking in a pub. It's always the start of many good stories.
No technical difficulties.
So to introduce ourselves, I am Matt. If you don't know me, I'm the owner of MC Future Fitness. Guys, if everybody wants to introduce themselves very quickly and we'll move on.
I'm going next after Matt. No, I don't need to. I'm Roisin. I guess I help with the social media and maybe like the spiritual side of MC Future Fitness.
I love that spiritual side. Steve,
My name is Tommy.
You go next, even though your name is Steve on the screen.
I'm Eve and I'm a coach at MC Future Fitness.
My name is Tommy and I am the mindset and performance coach at MC Future Fitness.
My name is Sharon. I'm a women's health and fitness coach and I've been online coaching with MC Future Fitness since January.
So we have a full house today. All 5 of us are here. And the next question and why we're kind of here is like, okay, what do we actually want from this podcast? What is the reason we are making it? So for me, social media is very, very confusing when it comes to health, wellness, nutrition, and there's charlatans everywhere. What we call charlatans is like a fitness word for fraud. People that don't really know what they're doing. A lot of them are just trying to sell you products and things that you don't need and a dream that doesn't exist. So I find podcast is a different avenue to actually have more engaging conversations. A lot of time on social media, everything is about like surface level stuff. It's all superficial. It's all entertainment and attention nowadays, and that's like who can do the most extreme thing to capture your attention. Whereas here, at least we can actually have a proper conversation without trying to dance around the screen or get your attention that way. So what else do we want from this podcast?
I think even just us as a team, you as the coaches do so much behind the scenes that nobody really sees. And I think from an outside perspective looking in, a lot of people might think we're just another like fitness company and not actually see all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And I think when you're in our community, you see how powerful it is. But we put time in behind the scenes and not time showing it off to everybody else. So I think through a podcast, you get to a deeper level into what's actually going on behind the scenes.
I think it's a good opportunity for people to get to know us as well. And I think, like, if you're going to kind of work with people or understand what they do, like having these conversations allows people to maybe see who we are, see what we do, how we think, different things that we do or approaches even we use with clients or for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think just touching on what the guys were saying, I think this podcast is such a wonderful way for people to be able to understand the different perspectives and to essentially just to learn more about the topics that we're going to discuss, because I think every single person here has such great insight into different areas and aspects of just general life itself. And I think there's so much that each one of us can share with anyone who is listening to this, and to be able to take away value from that.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important, and that's where I think we came up. I'm really glad we didn't use this name, Couch Conversations, because now that I look back, I'm like, it's a terrible name for a podcast. But essentially, what we want is it's as if we're all sitting down on the couch having a cup of tea, and it's like a group of people talking. Do you know when if you've ever been over at someone else's house where you get a group of people and you end up having this really good conversation, DMC, you might call it? That's what essentially we want for the listeners, as if you're like in here with us. You might be out on a walk, you might actually be sitting down having a cup of tea, and it's just good conversation. And I think a big thing for me is like impact. So when we have our good, like really good conversations, we're usually talking about podcasts or books that have changed our lives. It's never like, oh, I see this social media post that was 10 seconds long. It's like, I read this book, I listened to this podcast, and then we have a real conversation, So that's what I want for people to get out of it, And like you guys said, I think our stories and getting more, in a way, it's like, yes, we do want education and, people want to learn, but I think this is what I don't want it to be. It's just this like, boring, sciencey podcast that just actually has no personality. Because you'll all have listened to something before where you're like, that guy is really smart, but I can't listen to him for 10 more minutes because I'm gonna have to go fall asleep. So that's where the team has full obligation. If I start going down a science route too much, just like mute my microphone or just pull me back. Can we agree on that?
I think it's also
Rain,
to show people that they're not alone as well. Because I feel like we all have the same like limiting beliefs and stuff that we go through. We just have different experiences. And I think it's so valuable, like when you hear other people talking about stuff, you don't feel alone. And I think that's like probably one of the best feelings to have, is to not feel like you're alone through all of this.
Yeah. I think
definitely
we'll make a pact. If I get too sciencey, mute my microphone. If Ro or Sharon breaks into like meditation or spiritual stuff, you can cut them off. Tommy, if you get too mindset-y, we'll mute you as well. And then lastly, if Eve talks, everybody listens. I think Eve's the opposite of all of us.
Yeah, everyone listening.
We'll all talk rubbish for hours, but then Eve won't say anything. So if she talks, everybody else shut up.
It's golden.
agreed.
Yeah,
I'll try and talk a bit.
Something good.
Yeah.
Right, let's kind of kick into today's topic, which is the title of the podcast, which is Be Different. So this concept came about basically this time last year first, when we had our team retreat in Marbella. I think it was last October, and everyone was there. Sharon, you actually weren't there at the time, but you'll be there next month when we have our next one and our first ever retreat. So if you're actually there, or if you're listening to this into the future, you should come to our next retreat. And yeah, the concept of Be Different was, I've just been doing a lot of thinking about society, the world. When I'm left on my own, I think about strange things. And just the way everything is going nowadays, And, for a lot of us, we all kind of like, as grown up, we're nearly taught that we should fit in and that we should just go along with doing what everybody else is doing and not kind of stand out or not be different. But when you actually look at the world today, mental and physical health is declining. It's blatantly obvious. So if we just do the same thing everybody else is doing, where are we all going to end up? We're going to end up physical and mental health is going to decline. We're more likely to develop diseases, different mental health issues, and like even this isn't. It's blatantly clear. So there's a few kind of stats that I pulled out that I thought were actually quite interesting. So first one is, according to a Healthy Ireland survey in 2023, 2 in 5 people have a long-term health condition. So 40% of people have a long-term health condition. And then another survey in 2023 found that 60% of those surveyed experienced depression, 80% experienced anxiety. And then another poll done on Irish workers found that 60% of professionals had suffered some form of workplace-related. And then the World Health Organization in 2022 found that almost 6 out of every 10 adults are overweight or obese in the European region. Ireland were actually 9th in Europe. So after reading them, what is your initial thoughts, team, on that?
I think it's bizarre that it's normal to be stressed out of your mind if you're pursuing a job, or it's normal to have health conditions, or to have like sore bones and be in pain a lot of the time is considered normal. Or and then if you're eating healthy, that's not normal. If you eat like natural foods or less processed foods, you're considered to be on a diet, or you are considered to be the minority, which is just bizarre.
I think it's so easy but how it can happen. Sorry, Tommy, I got over you.
No, go, Sharon.
I think it's easy when you see maybe how it can be happening, that people don't have the knowledge, they don't have the education. Like, life has changed so much and things are busier, people are busier. Definitely see it from others as well. Like, there's so much that needs to be done, and maybe people don't have the same support or the kind of knowledge or way of living that we used to have. And that is kind of causing a ripple effect on deterioration in physical and mental health.
I think, Cooney, listening to those statistics, it really just represents how society itself is actually failing us. How all those indicators are going up. It was something I read recently too. There's another statistic to add to that, is that 80% of actually all the chronic health issues within the world are down to lifestyle issues. So it's not got to do with genetics, it's not got to do with predisposed diseases. It's all got to do, 80% of those health issues in the world today are down to lifestyle choices. And when you look at it today, you look at society today, you look at the way the world is moving so fast, look how quickly and how easy it is for us to be able to attain or get food, or to essentially remove us from a lifestyle that once sustained humanity. And we're a lot more sedentary now in what we do. And I think Sharon mentioned a big thing there is education. I think definitely over the last couple of years, obviously with the surge in the internet and social media and that, look at it as its pros and cons, but definitely there is way more education out there now for people to be able to learn more and to understand more. But I think there's a lot of damage has already been done due to a lack of education over the last 10, 20 years. So I think that in itself is going to take time through platforms like this. What we're trying to do, I think, is going to have a massive impact on being able to help people.
Yeah. And I think you said it there with education, and this is where it's kind of good and bad. And that's why I love your opinions, because there's lots of education out there, but also people are probably as confused as they ever were. So, and this is where, even for me, I often think, because sometimes because I've been doing this so long, I get detached from like normal people, because I'd see something and I'd go like, oh yeah, I know it's bullshit. Like I wouldn't even bat an eyelid. But then it's only sometimes when I talk to people, I realize like, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, or even me, it was me 15 years ago. It's like, how do you know? How do you know we're not full of shit? You know, how do you know the guy PT down the road is talking sense, or even the doctor with the credentials? Because as we know, some doctors are quacks. Being honest, they're not. They have their own biases and they have their own beliefs, and they're not even evidence. So how can the average person get through that? How do they know what to listen to?
I think
I think that's it.
that's so important, isn't it? I think this is something I do. It's like, especially in terms of like social media or people that you're getting advice from, stop trying to take it from everyone, because everyone will give you, like, if you're just, for example, following 20 people and they're all giving their advice on how to do X, Y, Z, like, it can start conflicting. So I think it's finding like what you like, that you try and works for you. And you might only have maybe 2 or 3 people, I know kind of I would, that you would just kind of follow their advice. You know, you like their message, you like kind of what they say, they tell you to do. When you do it, you feel better for it, or you feel it works for you, or it's easy for you to understand, instead of like getting kind of knowledge bombed maybe by everyone and then just ending up confused.
I think it's like take inspiration from people and then see what it works for you, because everyone is completely different and things work. It's like listening more to your body and seeing how you feel when you start doing different things. But I think, like Matt, you were saying that it's so, when you're surrounded by like-minded people, like everyone here, like we have these conversations, we're kind of in the know, you forget the lack of education outside of it or how other people think. Something that always gets me when I have conversations with other people, I'm like, oh, I forget that there is so much confusion out there. Because when you're trying to get information from everything, you're just overloaded with information and you don't know who to listen to and you don't know who's right and who's wrong. And you end up like doing a little bit of a lot of things and going nowhere.
And I think we all had it ourselves when we started as well. And like, even that's where when I look back, I'm like, when I started, it took me, I'd say, at least 5 years before I found, and this is where Sharon, you were saying, like, it's definitely right, is to find a few people that you kind of trust and you like what they're saying. The thing is, for me, it took me 5 years. I'd say some people are 20 years down the line, they still haven't found these people. And when I started, it wasn't as prevalent. I had to go look for this information, you know, like I was on like bodybuilding.com forums and Teen Nation magazines and all these, and YouTube, all these places. And I kind of had to find it, versus now there's so much, it's in your, you just type a word into a search engine on any social media and it's everywhere. But that's what I really do feel for people that are confused, you know, because they're not to be. And there's so much conflicting information. And then when you look at the trends on top of that, it's kind of like what we're saying with Be Different. It's the information is now there, but it's how do you sift through it? And like the trends are still getting worse. So is information the problem, you know? And Tommy, you said it, that's where lifestyle is. I think it's very much not talked about enough, because people, I think when we talk about lifestyle, I think of integration. Like lifestyle is like everything. I think people still look at like nutrition in a box, exercise in a box, your career in a box, and it's all like, I'm on this diet or I'm doing this training, instead of looking at your whole lifestyle as like, this is the way I live, you know?
I think like touching definitely, and I think like the lifestyle part of that is outside of like nutrition and exercise, is the information that you listen to know, how important it is for you to be able to know and understand who it is that you're getting this information off. And I think touching on kind of what Sharon said, I definitely agree with the fact that, I keep it very small about who I listen to, and off the top of my head, like I only really might listen to like 2 or 3 podcasts of the same person literally over the last couple of years, and just because their values, their principles, they align with who I am, so their message is the same message that I believe in. And I think it's about being able to definitely like keep that circle small about who you're listening to, so you're not just being bombarded with tons of different types of information that can be very conflicting, and then that can feel very overwhelming for you then. So I can
And I think something that even just popped into my mind there is like, even with podcasts. So I enjoy podcasts like Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, but he has a lot of guests on it with like nutrition that I wouldn't listen to or like wouldn't advise people. So it's like funny, even for me, I'm like, I can know that kind of straight away, but I could definitely see how people that aren't as, I suppose, educated or knowledgeable, don't have the experience I do, could listen to those podcasts and be really influenced by them, because a lot of them are good speakers. And then it's like, it sends you down this rabbit hole, which, mightn't be the best option long term or the right information. So it's just something that I was thinking of there. Or even like what I find with those podcasts is like, some of it is, it's not that it's all BS. Some of it is true, but it's like sometimes blown out of context, or it's not maybe what the normal person needs to hear at that time.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Diary of a CEO's stuff as well, it's all like clickbait. Like all the podcasts are like when you see it, you're kind of like, no way. And then you click into it and you're like, okay, and you listen to it, then you're like, okay, this is just a tiny little segment of the podcast. And it's not like, it's just shocking kind of stuff to get people to click in.
Yeah.
that's actually
So true.
why
Because
I
you see like
actually
the
stopped
social
listening
media
to
clip is like 20 seconds and it's this insane statement that creates reaction. And then I've had that, even if you listen to the podcast, then you're like, 90% of the stuff they're saying is actually okay. It's just that one little thing that was taken out of proportion. But that's what gets attention then. So it's like, yeah, it's a hard one.
That's actually why I've stopped listening to Stephen, is because of that, his type of the way he presents his material and that. I don't think I just don't think it's right in a way with what he does. Some of his clickbait stuff can be very misleading. I know that he's obviously trying to grow his own business and that, but I just think for him, who has such a high presence within the world, I don't think he needs to be doing that. And I think that's definitely something that I've kind of been pushed away from listening to him, is kind of what he was saying.
Fear-based, like he's tapping into pain points and fear instead of like, the opposite could be desire. Like if it was more like a desirable click, then you'd be but it's fearing people. Like people see it and they're like, oh my God, they're worried, and then they click into it.
I always wonder, what does Stephen actually believe? Because he's had all these guests on, even with nutrition, that are opposite. So he's had some good people. Like I think he's had Lane Norton, Mike Israel was on recently, and a few others that I would advocate for. I'm on their team. But then he's had others that essentially will have conflicting information or different approaches. So I'm like, what does he actually believe? Because, for example, he's had people that talk like about calories and how that is the most important thing. Then he has had people that say calories don't matter. So I'm like,
Tim Spector.
Yeah, I'm like, what does he believe? Because he's literally getting both,
I think he's just bringing in as much information as possible so that you can build your own belief system.
Yeah, I wonder, does he do like research on these beforehand? Yeah, don't know. It's an interesting topic. I just understand for people how difficult it is to swing back around. Roshi, you actually said this about the word normal, and I found this interesting. How what's considered normal nowadays is actually like leading to worse physical and mental health. So like, for example, right, let's say we take 2 people. We'll call person 1 Matt. He's fit, healthy, and happy. Person 2 is Stephen. He's unfit, overweight, anxious, and unhappy. We're both like mid-30s. which one now is kind of considered normal?
But it also, because when you hit 30s, your life starts going downhill, you know? That's that stigma that you're not as fit. And no, but it is that like, oh, I can't work out as much, or oh, it's normal for me to have a bad back, or it's normal for me to have sore knees, or it's normal for me to not have as much energy because I've hit my 30s. Like, these are all little things that you'd hear people say. And I feel like then that tricks you into slowing down, because you're like, oh, sure, I'm meant to slow down, so there's no point even giving my all because this is just the time of my life.
It is so true that I think so.
I saw something that says, like, our normal should be us at our optimal state. Like, that should be normal. Humans should be able to, and I know this is far-fetched, but like, humans should be able to be so connected with ourselves that we know how to get ourselves to like a really good state at all times. And then when we're stressed and when we're overwhelmed, that shouldn't be normal. But it's a long way before we get to that.
I think that's what makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all you're saying. That's what we're here to do, you know. And that whole.
And I think what makes it difficult is that feeling of normal, that like the human body and brain, like we are meant to adapt. So on one side, externally, we're getting all this info in, like this is how we should be now at this age. And then internally, like when you get stressed, when you start to be stressed all the time, that becomes normal. So you don't actually know, like you said, Roshi, we've had so many clients who say this, like, you don't know what feeling good is meant to feel like, or you forget, or like, you don't know what good, like, sorry, have no butters, like, you don't know what good sleep is. I often laugh at, like, even people will tell me, they're like, oh, I can have a coffee and go straight to sleep and I'm fine. I'm like, then even I've had this conversation, and then it goes, I'm like, but is your sleep good? It's like, no, my sleep's terrible. I'm like, yes, because you don't know what good sleep actually is. That's why you think caffeine doesn't affect you, because you've never had a good night's sleep. If you did, you would know. But it's the same thing with stress. It's like when you get people to actually slow down, they're like, this is not normal. Like they feel like that's not normal, you know. Yeah. So, you know, running on fumes, living off caffeine, having no energy.
You get addicted to the stress though.
Yeah, it becomes, it's like it's called a maladaptation. Like, it's like we just adapt to it, but it's actually a negative.
But yeah, I think with that as well is you get to a point where when you can come out of it and you can start to actually feel like, what does actually feeling good feel like? What does sleep feeling like, being able to have a good night's sleep feel like? Then you kind of are like, oh my God, this is how I'm meant to feel. But you actually forget that you don't actually know what that's like until you can come out the other side of it.
And it's kind of like asking yourself, definitely, what am I doing when I am feeling my best? And what am I doing now? You know, we all kind of know, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, I know I'm going to feel good. But often when you're not feeling good, it's harder to do those things. And that nearly kind of creates nearly a spiral of not feeling good and getting you further away from where you want to feel.
Lots of it has to do with, you know, your environment. If you've grown up in a very stressful environment, then that is your normal. That is your conditioning. I meant to be stressed. And then if you go into a place or you enter into a stage of your life where you're like, there is no stress present, you will actually look for that. So you will. Your subconscious will actually try and create stress in your life, whether it's the way that your thoughts are operating or how you're feeling or how you react to different situations and that. Your subconscious will try essentially bring you back to that state that you're used to. And that's where the mindset work comes in, you know, being able to actually understand that is when people actually are just so used to it. Like you said, their stress tolerance level is like up here when it should be just at a baseline level where you're used to just being able to deal with stress, but in a positive way. So it is. And I love that. I think what everyone really said is like when people make positive changes in their life and they use the words, I feel good. And I'm like, yes, you could feel this way all the time. If you do these things, it's such a powerful statement. So it is.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to the stress. We're definitely going to do another podcast on just stress, probably multiple podcasts, stress, but it is, like you said, Tommy, it's like your environment and just sometimes what you've known. Like even for me, definitely when I started a business, I was probably listening to too much Gary V. If you ever remember him, Gary Vaynerchuk. And it's like, work all day, get up at 4 in the morning, just start working, just grind. And I was like, okay, so my thought process is like, to be successful in business, you have to work every single hour of every single day, and then nothing. That's the way it goes. And that's what I just basically did until I burnt out. I was trying to do. And then it was like, not until years later that you kind of have to, one, realize it's not sustainable, then understand like there's a better approach, and it is hard because when you're in it, you don't really see a way out, or it becomes your normal. And often you see this because even we're probably all guilty of this. It's like you look at someone else's life then and be like, how are they doing that? How are they? You forget that they're probably stressed. They are stressed, or they're having the same feelings and emotions. But we tend to look at some other people and go, like I remember looking at other trainers and being like, oh, they're not working the weekends, like, or I'd be nearly comparing and being like, that can't be possible. But it's all a learning curve, I think.
I think it also comes back to yourself. Like we people don't trust themselves to know what's right. And so we get caught up with society and social media telling us what normal is. And you can get so far down that rabbit hole that you're just doing everything you're told to do without actually tapping into how you feel. And I know for me, I spent it's only in the last 4 years where I'm on the other side, like, holy shit, the way I felt, I thought that was normal to wake up every morning, like high anxiety, like tightness in my chest. I thought that was just how I was meant to feel because everything else in my life was great. And it's not until after I'd done all the work that I'm like, holy shit, that was not normal, and nobody should feel like that on a daily basis. Because now I know how good it feels to feel good. And I'm like, everyone can achieve this with the right information.
Need to bottle that feeling and sell it.
Yeah, if I could.
And I think that's a message though we all grew up with, and it's not something I've seen with a lot of clients, is a message that they've grown up with from parents is, you got to work hard. There's a feeling like you have to work hard. But there was never a message about working smart. It was simply, you got to work hard. You need to do this. And I see a lot of people these days, who, including myself, I remember even myself, when I stepped into the corporate world, I found it very hard to take a day off, even if I was like really, really sick, because I just kind of essentially grew up with the message, that like this feeling like you need to really work hard. And that's something obviously I've worked on over the last couple of years and that, but it's something I see very regular with people is they just push themselves to, like you said, Matt, to extreme burnout because they have this narrative in their head that to get by in life, to move forward in life, that you just need to keep working.
It's probably the most common thing we see, like with our clients as well, is, I don't like the word balance, but that the performance pyramid that we talk about, so personal, professional, physical, what tends to happen is people just get they neglect their physical, they neglect their health because life, career, family takes over, and they end up putting themselves to the bottom of the pile. Because like you said, Tammy, it just becomes a work, and it's that mindset that they have to do it, that there's no other way.
But we wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah. And I would have as well. That's what, like, definitely I was like that. And it would be like I remember now, I'm like, I wrote an email about this and I was like, I think I worked 7 days a week for 6 years. Like, and I used to say that, like chest up, like, this is what I've done. I say that now, like, nearly like, oh, that makes me like, you're an idiot. Why would you be proud of doing? Because I could have literally worked 4 days a week for that amount of years and got the same result. Like Tommy said, I just didn't know any different. It was just like, my motto was like, if you work 5 days, I work 6 and I beat you. Even though like I could be hanging on 3 hours sleep, get nothing done. And you could do more in 2 hours than I do in a week. So it's like, yeah, I think it's a good lesson in a way, but the problem that I see, and like for a lot of our clients, it's very hard to get out of, or they don't know any different,
Yeah,
and I think sorry.
He's talking, Eve, go on. No,
Eve,
you go, Mark.
I was just saying, basically, like even you see in the countries where they've reduced to a 4-day work week, like they're still getting the same amount done or more. They're feeling a lot better. They're more productive. They've more time off to like rest and relax. And, it just shows that by doing more, you're not actually doing better. And that like having that time off is important.
Where is that? Sweden and Germany. Are they the two places?
Sweden, I think.
Sweden,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Australia brought in some places too. I know it was a book I read about productivity actually. There's definitely a few countries that have done it. I'm sure there's actually a company that have started doing it up in Dublin.
I
Yeah.
think we should do it at MC Future Fitness.
I was just going to say, don't anybody here ask for a working day off or Friday. We'd be different.
Be different. We work 24/7.
That's what I always say. I give up a 9 to 5 to work 24/7. Great.
I think for some people, like they don't have a choice and they do have to work long hours and their days are long in terms of, when they finish work, then they're at home and it's a different type of work. But I think and I know for a lot of my clients, it's learning how to support yourself better to set you up for those kind of days or those kind of weeks where you like from the minute your feet hit the ground in the morning, your goal. And I know that like that is for a lot of mothers, like, they're before they go to work, they're getting the kids ready. Then they're going to work. Then they're coming home. Then they have to organize the kids on where they're going and everything. But I think as well, like learning to prioritize yourself and do very small little things for yourself during the day to help you feel better, to support your energy levels, improve your mood, so that when you get to 9 o'clock in the evening, that you are not fit to drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's also like we grew up in a society where overworking you wear it as a badge of honor and like you can boast about it. Oh, I worked all night, and it's this thing that everyone would like boast about. And then there's almost this shame about saying that you took a day off or saying that you were sick. And it's this shame around it that like, and I think it's a huge thing that everyone is still having to work through, is not having that shame about like overwork. We shouldn't all be overworking, and taking a rest should be a normal thing, and a day off should be normal. And actually realizing that when you are stressed out or when you are like hitting a wall, to pull yourself back and give yourself rest is so much stronger than pushing through and trying to finish whatever work you're doing.
It's proven. Like the thing is, it's like we do that. We overwork or do all these long hours with the outcome. What we're trying to achieve is to do more or get a better result. But it's actually proven in research. And if you look up productivity, like I'm a bit of a nerd on that lately, taking regular breaks, eating properly, having actual time where you disconnect, like completely go away from work, rest and recovery, all this actually increases productivity. And it's even like Eve said with that 4-day work week, what is happening is they're giving themselves more recovery, recharging batteries. Then in that 4 days, they're being more productive. And a lot of people have said this, even working remotely nowadays, is like they get more done outside the office, because when they're in the office, they're not as productive because they're obviously just like there's more social interaction. There's obviously just all different things fitting into their environment. Whereas when they're at home, they tend to get more done, And I think it's understanding that it's not a positive thing to be not taking a lunch break, to be working, checking your emails at 11 p.m. Like, and it's like often it's funny because we treat ourselves differently than we treat someone else, because you would look at somebody else and you'd say to them straight away, or if it was your child, you'd go, no, don't ever do that. But when it's ourselves, we just, because we're emotional creatures, we tend to do it to ourselves,
It's kind of like taking one step back to take 2 steps forward.
You even notice that, like, when you have your weekend off, like, I know Mondays I'm like probably the most productive. It's like go, go, go. It's because I've had that day off. And then you notice it as the week goes on, your productivity or your like creativity or everything kind of starts to dwindle because you've now put like 4 days of work, do you know?
Yeah. Come back around then. I think, Tommy, you mentioned it with the lifestyle, when we started talking about the whole concept of being different. And that's where for me, it's why we call the podcast the Future Fitness Lifestyle. We talk about future fitness lifestyle, and I suppose that's our mission, is to actually bridge that gap between mental and physical health. That it's not just about how you weigh, how you look, how you eat. Your health is like so much more, and it's this holistic approach that we need to take. And I think when we look at the stats that we've said, they're actually, and we can see it with our eyes over the last few years, it is quite scary, to be honest. But it also drives me. I think it's one of the big driver is to try to make a difference, have an impact. And that's where the whole be different. It's like, what I think of in my head is like, when everybody is going left, you need to go right. And if you look at like a lot of super successful businesses over the years, like they always went against the grain. They never did what everybody else was doing. They did something else. And it's kind of like a motto I nearly live was like, okay, find what everybody else is doing, do the opposite. Because the trends are showing that if that train is going the wrong direction, let's hop on a different train, Yeah.
But I think also what stops people a lot, or what scares people a lot, is to think that this is so much effort and you need to do so much at the beginning, whereas it's literally making tiny changes over time that could make huge improvements. And when you start doing that and when you start feeling better, sure, it's just a part of your life. It's not something you have to do. It's something you want to do. And you find that little time to make it your priority. And I think through this podcast and sharing our tips, like people can realize that it's not this huge change that you have to make. It's a process.
Yeah.
And that was something you said too this month in the Empower Hour as well, Roisin. I think that was really important. People can feel overwhelmed when they think they have so much that they have to do, start making changes. But like, the smaller you can make them, easier you make them, just makes it a little bit effortless.
Yeah, like small sustainable changes is what will lead to the long-term lasting results.
Yeah. And I think for anybody listening, to kind of bring it full circle and go, okay, what we want to take away from this podcast is the whole concept of be different is, I think, about ownership, responsibility, and understanding that you do have a choice and you have control. You can change your future. And it's, Tommy, we talked about this recently, is a big thing, I think, is accepting. It's like understanding, okay, like wherever you're at today, you can't essentially change it. You can't change the past. You can't predict the future, but right now you can accept where you are. And sometimes accepting that is accepting that that's not where you want to be, and that you can get to where you want. But the first thing is like, I think just looking at right now and going, okay, this is where I am. No matter what is happening, no matter what went on, I can say all these things, but here I am right now. What is the next? This is where I want to go. It's probably so far ahead I can't see it. But like Eve said, it's like, what is that first change that I can do? And if you do that, and if you know that, if you can empower yourself with the understanding that you can be different, you don't have to be the same as everybody else. And I think it's really interesting. What I was thinking about was like, you all said it, like how we're all so different. We're all very unique. And even our situation is all unique, like me and Eve have been, none of it, we're all essentially different. We're very different. Me and Eve have been living out of a suitcase for basically 6 years. Tammy's been in a corporate world for like a decade. Roisin is out living on her own in Portugal. Sharon is, I was going to say raising a child, which is actually a teenager, and it's like, all of us are here today. We're all completely different, completely unique, but we're all very aligned with the whole concept again of being different. And like Roisin said, it's kind of understanding that you create that new normal. Normal can be whatever you want it to be, not just what we should be doing as society.
In that, with the five of us, like, we're all so different. We've all gone through different things, but we can all relate so much to experiences we've had, limiting beliefs we've had, and then when we can come together and have those conversations. But I think what's important as well is people knowing that, like, your worth this time and energy. Like, we all try and go for those quick fixes and the easy options because deep down we don't believe we're worthy the time and effort. And I think something that's so important is that you're worth the blood, sweat and tears, the effort, the energy put into creating this life. It's something I like to remind myself and remind everyone, is that, like, you shouldn't be looking for the easy option. You're much more than an easy quick fix.
Tommy, I think that is the perfect way to wrap up this podcast. And I think if you're listening to this and you've listened this far, it means you're a health conscious person, and I could nearly guarantee that
You're one of us.
you want to make changes, and you can. This is your permission from the MC Future Fitness team to go out and make it happen. So, finishing the podcast, we're doing a tradition, which I don't even know, do you guys remember or know? But we're gonna ask a random question. I have this little site where it's gonna generate random questions, and today's question to finish is a funny one. What is something you own that you have never used?
Do we answer this?
That we have never used or we never use.
My new running belt.
Yes, something you own that you have never ever used.
I'm going to say my belt.
I'd say my pepper spray, but that's
Thank God, you've never had to use that.
I've never had to use that. I own it.
It's fine.
I don't even know anything.
For me, I live out of a suitcase, so everything has to have a purpose. So I must
We
own
could go a
something.
little deeper on this.
So I bought a Spanish phrase book to learn Spanish, and unfortunately, I haven't ever used it yet. But I do plan to. So, but next time we have a podcast, we have to all use, well, I was going to say Russian. No, maybe not using your
Pepper spray someone.
Yeah. It's not to be a good start to the next podcast. It's a story of how you pepper sprayed some random person in Portugal. Okay, guys, thank you for joining the first episode, and we hope you enjoyed it and got some value from it. Thanks for listening to the Future Fitness Lifestyle. If you found value in today's show, please take a moment to leave us a review and share it with someone who could benefit. Every single review or share helps us grow the show and will allow us to keep bringing you more great content. Stay tuned for weekly episodes where we'll be sharing more tips and insights to help you take your health, fitness, mindset to the next level. If you are interested in joining the MC Future Fitness community to help you achieve your goals, please fill out the application form that will be linked below. Thanks again for joining me, and remember, consistency beats perfection. See you in the next episode.